All right, this is the Hoops with Us podcast, and I'm joined by a very, very special guest today, Coach Dan Russell, who is an assistant at Montana State. Coach, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Once again, thank you for joining me on the show. So,
Yes, sir.
for everyone out there who doesn't know too much about you, Coach, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I started out as a graduate assistant at the University of Wyoming about 12 years ago, and then I only did 1 year of that, and I was lucky enough to get an assistant coaching position at Casper College, where I grew up and played at. I played 2 years at the junior college level there, and I came back after the graduate assistant year at the University of Wyoming and spent 5 years as the assistant coach and 6 as the head coach. So was there for 11 years, and then just spent this past year, my first year at Montana State University, with head coach Danny Sprinkle.
Awesome. All right, that leads me right into my next question. So you coached at and played at the JUCO level. Tell me what benefits the most from playing at the JUCO level, how it gets guys more exposure, things in that nature.
Well, I think, Alex, that the junior college level allows guys a vehicle to showcase their skill. If say they weren't too highly sought after out of high school, or weren't big time recruits and kind of went under the radar, it kind of gives guys another opportunity or another chance to go play and kind of get the exposure that they maybe wanted out of high school and didn't get. But the junior college level nowadays is really popular, and I think it's starting to grow a lot more. There's thousands of good coaches and good programs and good players at the junior college level, and I think it's starting to, as you can see on social media and stuff, start to become more popular. And Brandon Goebel with JUCO Advocate has become a very big part of that. And he's done a fantastic job with selling the junior college level, and I think it's only going to grow and grow more.
For sure. Yeah, like you said, I think it gives the kids, like you said, that aren't getting the exposure they wanted out of high school. It basically just gives them a second chance to reach their end goal. All right, Coach. So the next question that I got for you is, you're now an assistant at Montana State. Tell us how it is coaching there, and what's the environment like coaching your guys there?
It's an awesome environment. The guy I work for, head coach Danny Sprinkle, has done an awesome job with laying the concrete down and foundation of our culture and program, which makes it a lot more fun and enjoyable to coach under. Player development is something that's very huge in our program, and it's something that we dedicate a lot of our time, throughout the day, week, months, spending our time doing with our players. And being on the floor, just working with guys, that's something that I love. It's something that part of the reason why I got into this profession was, the player development aspect of the game, and just helping players' games grow, and just being on the floor with them, and kind of rolling up your sleeves and putting in the work with the guys. And, that's a huge staple of our program here. So that part's been awesome for me. I have my hand in a lot of the player development stuff here at Montana State that Coach Sprinkle has allowed me to do. And, it's a great atmosphere here in Bozeman. We're kind of like the big show in town, the NBA team, and it's major college town. We don't have anything else really. So we get very good crowds. We have really good fan support here. We close to about 4,000 people a game here to every single one of our games. And we were one of the top teams in attendance in the Big Sky Conference. So I think our guys enjoy playing in front of, great crowds, great fan support. But so far it's been a really awesome experience working for Danny Sprinkle.
That's great. Before we started the podcast, I was on the Montana State website for basketball, and I saw a video of you mic'd up at a practice, and it showed me how interactive you are with your players and how you like to joke around with them. So that leads me into my next question. How would you describe your coaching style?
Well, just like you saw on the mic'd up, I I'm an energetic guy. And that's one of the roles on our staff is I got to kind of be the hype man. I got to be the energy guy. And, a lot of it to me is just relationships. And I'm sure you hear it all the time and that's something that I was kind of, when I first started coaching, one thing my dad really, kind of hammered in my head is, these players, your players are never going to care how much you know until they know how much you care about them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I really, took to heart and kind of take that approach with our players and just really try to develop a really good relationship with them like they're my family members and like they're brothers. And because really you spend a lot of your time and day with those guys. And I think that's a huge part of the player development aspect as well. As we could sit here and talk about all the drills, all the ball handling stuff, passing stuff, shooting, whatever, but really it comes down to relationships and just getting the guys to trust you. And if they trust you and you have a good relationship with you, their game is going to grow tenfold, and they're going to get to levels that they didn't even know they had a chance to get to because they trust and have that good relationship with you as a coach. So that's something that I like to think that the energy, the interactiveness, the just being able to coach them hard, and that's something with our staff. We coach these guys extremely hard, but I think they know it comes from the heart and it comes from a good place.
For sure. Like you just said about trust, when I first started doing this recruiting process, everyone always told me it's all about building relationships and building trust with people. And I think that doesn't just go for the recruiting process with everything. I think it goes for everything basketball related. If you get trust from a player or from a coach, I think that it can go a long way. All right, so Coach, the next question that I got for you guys is, you guys went 16-15 last year, I believe. What are you guys looking to improve on going in the next year?
I think one thing that we, obviously had to improve on was we had to just hit the recruiting trail really hard. I think you saw we had signed, we have 6 new signees, and all of them are, our type of guys. We call them OKGs and just our kind of guys. And, they're all pass, handle, shoot guys. Coach Sprinkle is really big on guys who can really handle that thing, really pass it with both hands, can really handle it with both hands, and guys who can really shoot it, whether it's off the dribble, off the move, off ball screens. And then they also got to be guys who are willing and really competitive kids. And with that kind of comes with the defensive rebounding, stigma that we kind of have out there. We moved the program up to new heights defensively. I think we jumped over 100 spots, in defensive ratings from the previous staff. And that's something that's very important to Coach Sprinkle, is just the defensive side of the ball and defending and rebounding and running. And, I think that's something that we really addressed, was the recruiting piece and recruiting guys who could really, do those things offensively, and then had to have a willingness and a competitiveness to really guard and really want to rebound. So I think that's moving forward in our program. Those are things that you just got to hit every single day. They're the non-negotiables. And, we have a really good big kid in Jabril Bello returning, who was third team all Big Sky, and he was the newcomer of the year in the Big Sky Conference. So, we have one of the best bigs returning, and then we have a, fantastic point guard who is sitting out for us this past year, who transferred in from UMKC, Xavier Bishop. And then we're trying to space them with shooters. Our offense wasn't great this past year, and that's something, obviously, like we just talked about Alex addressing in the recruiting process, but that's something that we, once we get them on campus, we got to really, start working on meshing all that together and getting those guys to learn and understand how to play together and playing unselfish and really emphasize the pass. as well as getting the best shot for Montana State, the best shot for the name on the front of the jersey.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, you just talked about like the recruiting process, how you guys were trying to build on that for next year. And with the ongoing coronavirus going on, how has the recruiting process changed for you guys and your staff?
Yeah, I think, Alex, we put because of what is going on in the COVID-19, we put a major premium on being very organized. And with not being able to get into a student athlete's house to do an in-home visit or meet them in person just to start developing that relationship, obviously we've had to do a lot of Zoom and WebEx, video conferences and meetings to be able to kind of establish that. And in the recruiting process, I think now more so than ever, you got to be really in depth and detailed, and do your homework and research with the data, the kids' data and the kids' stats. And I think you got to kind of go back further than even just the kids' previous season. I think you got to go back a couple of seasons to really get a better picture painted for yourself on what type of kid you're recruiting and what type of kid you possibly could be bringing to Montana State. And obviously with that, you got to watch a ton of film. And I think even with the data and stats, you got to watch film from previous years and just to get to know the kid more and really working the phones and really doing your research. Obviously got to be really creative, and you got to be creative with the way to present, your information to the recruits. And, you got to do it without, the ability to get them on campus and the ability to meet them, which is hard, especially at Montana State, because, a lot of times, you call a kid and you meet a kid and you tell them where you're from and where you're at, and they're like, oh gosh, Montana, what is that? Where is that at? And a lot of people don't understand how really beautiful and how nice of a place Bozeman, Montana is. So being able to bring kids out on visits so they could see it with their own two eyes was critical and is critical for us at Montana State. So, not being able to meet, have the ability to meet with them in the foreseeable future, or hopefully it's soon, there's no real blueprint, for it at the time, but it's just, something that I think our staff has done a good job of being organized and really doing our homework and research and, calling junior high coaches, AAU coaches, high school coaches, people who are associated with the student athlete.
For sure, yeah. When I've been talking to coaches during this pandemic that's been going on, they have all said the same thing. You got to do a lot of digging and not just look at previous seasons. You got to see how much they have developed from their last seasons, and that shows you how hard the kids are willing to work, in a sense.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, Coach. So the last question that I got for you today is, what are you most excited about for next year at Montana State?
I think the thing that, we've really tried to build in our program and our culture is just the level of competitiveness and how hard the guys compete in our program. We were, like you said, we were 16-15 last season. Obviously that was a good step in the right direction, but definitely not where we want to be. We want to be, competing for championships and having a chance to play in the NCAA tournament and postseason play. And, I believe it was the first winning season in Montana State's history, or, we're going back in over 10 years. So the program's moving in the right direction. But we have a lot of work to do. And, we feel like we got a really good stable of guys who are returning, with the Jabril Bellows, the Xavier Bishops, the Borja Fernandezes that got a lot of time this past season, and the Devin Kirby's, adding in our new group of guys that we have coming in. I think one thing that we really addressed, and we kind of talked a little bit about it earlier in the podcast, was just our ability to shoot the ball. And one thing that is huge in our offense is we preach, and we probably say it 1,000 times a day, is pace and space, and pace and space, and you got to be able to have some guys who can really space the floor, and you got to really, preach pace and getting that thing moving around and keep it hot. And I think we have a lot of guys who can do all those things and can really space the floor, and we have a great inside presence. And so, we're going to really work harder on our offensive efficiencies. And, I think we are going to be allowed to do a lot more things offensively than, we probably were this past season. And, it's just really exciting times for us and what we're, hopefully going to be able to do moving forward in the future here for Montana State basketball.
For sure. Well, Coach, that's all the questions that I got for you today. Wanted to really appreciate you for joining me on the show today, and it was great talking to you about Montana State and your background, and I'm looking very forward to staying in contact with you, and I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck next season.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you having me on. You're doing a great job. Love following your content. I highly recommend it to every coach out there in the country.
Thank you very much, Coach. I'll definitely be in touch soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
No doubt.